So what brings you to Startup Week Columbus, and can you kind of introduce yourself after that?
Sure. Yeah. I'm Matt Shonower. I'm a member at Brennan, Manna Diamond. It's a law firm, 25 years old, based out of Akron, Ohio. We've got 11 offices in several states. We're a business law firm that has a big healthcare practice and litigation practice. And I personally am an intellectual property attorney, patent attorney background. I came to Startup Week to speak to one of my good friends and clients, Matt McCarthy of Stoveguard, came with me, and we kind of walked through a founder's journey and kind of the interplay between planning this long-term vision that you have for your business and bringing something to market with all the short-term problems and budgets and intermediate things that happen right along the way, and to kind of just sort of give people a good walkthrough of that as a learning experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so to kind of tee you up, based on your talk and based on kind of where you teed me up here. So typically, being a lawyer, when you walk in, people just expect large expense. So
That's
it's
right.
always, I know this is always a hard-hitting question. I think that with it, like, everybody always expects money. Nobody quite knows where to go. There's a lot of attorneys in the world, which isn't to knock the profession, but there's a lot of different variations of it. Can you talk a little bit more about value within that? And then how do you handle, like, I work with a lot of startups that don't have money. Right. They wait, as we've discussed before, wait way too long to ever involve anybody legal. But there's also those startups that do way too early. So can you kind of talk about how you look at bringing value to situations and then how that gets communicated across? So if a startup's not quite ready for you, or they are, like, how do you cross that cost barrier without talking about price, right?
Yeah. So it's always a kind of an apprehensive thing. We got to involve professional advisors. What is this going to cost, right?
Yeah.
And for good reason. I mean, there's a lot of experience out there in very niche things, and that's why there are a lot of lawyers have niche practices. I'm one of them. And I think a couple of the things that I try to get out and champion to people are, number one, when you're looking to bring in some type of advisor, whether it's lawyers, accountants, whoever it's going to be, you should be doing your homework to find out who has the experience that really you need. There are, depending on what type of advisor is, there are ways to do that. Asking around, looking in bios, trying to find, in the public information, like what have they done in public. So that's kind of one thing, is to sort of hone in who you're looking for. Number two is it's very common for startup founders. They have to do everything, right? Yeah. I mean, you are focused on bringing this product to market, and then something that you've never done before pops up every month, every week, right? So what I have experienced in my career is that oftentimes startup founders are trained to do everything they can to get it to the last mile and then take it to it, right? I mean, you've probably seen this too.
Yeah.
Sometimes that can be detrimental or not a cost-effective way of dealing with a problem, because you might go too far in one direction where I might have steered you another way. So one of the things I think that I try to always get out into public is you should at least be talking to potential lawyers, accountants, you should be talking to us early to understand, have that conversation, understand when should we be talking, when should I be coming to you, what kind of costs can I expect? I mean, I don't think that it's a difficult thing to ask me, and I offer to do this for everybody. It's just, hey, can we look at this in 5 years? Can I just get a really rough, what kind of inflection points are we looking at? What kind of things should I be watching for as I go to market on this? Because as you know, and as you mentioned, IP specifically has a lot of file early sort of expenses and a lot of pressure to do things and spend money early. And it's completely opposite of what your budgets look like. And so strategically, you need to know, what do I really need? When do I need it? And how can we work with what my going to market plan is and fit it in? Because if you can't fit it in, then what are you doing? Right?
I think you hit on a lot of really good points, right? I think when I look at money, it's a big telltale sign. So as an engineering firm, like I'm a consultant as well, right? And I think that when I talk to startups, money and how you talk about money is where you come from, right? So if you're typically in a sphere where you're with wealthier individuals, they have no problem asking those questions, talking money. And typically when you're coming from an area that doesn't have a lot, you're hesitation. But I think that a good consultant, whether it's a lawyer or whether it's a writer or anybody across the realm, right? They're not going to shy away from providing a monetary understanding. So working with you to understand how much it should be. And I think that is the value, right? So within the government, there's always the joke of accepting the lowest bidder.
Yeah.
And I think that as a startup, that's where we're at. And really, to your point, it is, I want to talk to multiple different attorneys, but it is understanding when to talk to them because it goes both ways, right? So it could be that I've viewed you as, wasting my time or I wasting your time. And it's really a marriage, right? So if you're going to do work for me, I want to know how long, where it goes, all of that items.
Right.
Can you talk about a little bit about work within the community that you've done? So like working within the startups that isn't a direct, feedback monetarily. And then also talk a little bit about how you approach those difficult situations. Because I think probably a lot of people, as soon as they find out you're a consultant, they probably shy away very fast, where some people lead into that.
Sometimes, I mean, if people can get you for 10 minutes and get those insights, of like people, they'll do it, and I'm happy. So, I mean, one of the things that I focus on, and I've always focused on in my career, is I want to grow the economic pie in Central Ohio and Ohio and in my network and whatever I can do. So I'm happy to talk to founders. I'm happy to talk to business owners that just kind of need somebody to bounce an idea off of. Like that's, half my job is knowing people so that my clients, if they need something, I might know who they need to talk to. And that's part of what I do. So I'm always happy to talk to people. I'm always happy to know people. That's one thing. There's various ways that funding happens in this space. So I try to be around, I volunteer my time for various sort of advisory board positions and investment committees and things that are involved in awarding both non-dilutive funding and dilutive funding, like the Ohio State Early Investor Network and the Midwest Pediatric Device Consortium. Those are kind of two that I spend a lot of time with.
I think we both do. So
yeah, right. We may know each other from there. Yeah.
I think you hammered home really well there too. I think that the value also comes from helping everybody kind of rise. I know we've now, this is probably the fourth time this has come up, but the rising tide, right? I think that just because you can't help somebody doesn't mean that you don't know somebody that helps. And I think that it's a continual network of paying things forward, right? Yes. I think a lot of people think that, like, especially for me, right? A lot of people just expect me to want an immediate return. Yeah. But what they don't realize is that we do a lot of work where I know there's going to be no return, but I'm okay with that because it helps the community, it helps the growth. And I know that you had your practice before and you've been in the legal scene, especially in the startup realm, for quite a while. Yeah. So I guess if you can go out and give some advice to startups from your experience, what would be kind of your advice on how they should approach what they're doing? And can you give one piece of advice from your history on what you should tell them not to do?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be legal. So.
Right. I think people. Yeah. I mean, you can't know too many people, honestly, especially in a network where, you're operating with other people in your category with expertise around. We have so many research institutions in Ohio that, there's a network of assistance here. So definitely just get out there and meet people, I think, is one thing. You gotta be in. You gotta hone your craft. You gotta bring your product to market. But it takes a village, right? And I still think that. So that's definitely one. What not to do? Don't ignore things that you don't know. Tackle them when you can. I think maybe this is just purely anecdotal, but I feel like founders are getting younger, and I know you were talking earlier about. Entrepreneurship as a young person, sometimes it's a little bit easier to kind of like go out there and take risks. I think that there's more information available in access to it the further we go in life in this timeline. So you can educate yourself on things that it used to be hard to do. You can at least be conversant. And like myself, for example, and I mentioned this in my talk yesterday, I use an LLM to sort of prepare my questions when I'm going to meet with my accountant. I've got some ideas. I sort of understand it, but I don't. And I just get 3 questions that sort of hone in this is what I think I need to know, and gets him talking, and we go from there. And I think that's a valuable piece of information. So don't shy away from it. Just kind of tackle it head on and talk to people.
I think you just summarized the American health insurance sphere as shying away from things that you might not want to.
Maybe.
But I think that also you touched on a topic that we're not going to dive into here, but using tools available widely to not do the work necessarily, but understand the depth of the work.
Help you communicate.
Yes. Because I think showing up and knowing what you're talking about is invaluable to everybody, and especially your pocket.
If you don't know what you're buying or how to describe what you want to buy, that's hard, right? So I mean, part of what we do is to help you, like, here's what you really need, and if that's what people should be doing for you, I think. But
all right. Well, thank you for coming, and thank you for speaking.
Yeah. Thanks.